Hello, friends. This is Professor Googlov. Today's video will be a little unusual, but I'm sure you will like it. So, get comfortable and let's go. Get away unnoticed. Sometimes you have to act at random. There is no pre-planning, no forethought, no careful consideration. If you see an opportunity, you take it. Two prisoners were taking out the garbage behind the high fence of the prison. All they had to do was cast a fleeting glance at each other, nod slightly, and that was it. They escaped. The prisoners ran away from the prison as fast as they could, leaving the guard puzzled. He immediately reported the escape over the radio. Once free, the criminals split up and went their separate ways. In a case like this, it's every man for himself. The fugitives were apprehended a few days later in the annex of a neighboring apartment complex. How did these guys get away with it and convince the guards to let them outside without handcuffs? We can only speculate. Behind the fence. Some criminals are willing to swap heaven and earth to free themselves from prison walls. Others simply move part of the wall. These two prisoners removed a couple of cinder blocks and squeezed through the opening, then threw a blanket over a 7-meter barbed wire fence before fleeing into the woods. The holes in the wall were covered with posters, and the fugitives even made dummies out of pillows and blankets and put them in their beds to buy time. After all this hard work, the boys were caught when a local resident saw footprints in the mud at a nearby creek and reported it to the authorities. If you're thinking about how to escape from prison, you're probably better off not following in the footsteps of these crooks. Think fast, act fast. If you fail at something, try it again and again. After several unsuccessful attempts in one day, this criminal decided to hold off and wait for his big break. When the opportunity presented itself, he had to decide and act quickly. Here the cops stepped away from the patrol car to process his transfer, and this guy saw an opportunity to get away. As the garage door was about to close, he jumped out of the tiny opening, demonstrating the best speed limbo move you've ever seen in your life. When the gate closed behind the fugitive, it took the cops a few minutes to get out. By this point, the prisoner was far away. He had run so far away that not even the sniffer dogs, who had been scouring everywhere for 2 hours, could find him. The fugitive was arrested the next day, and it could be said that his luck had run out. Slow and controlled. Unless you are a criminal mastermind, you have to use your strengths. Being a sweet-talking Casanova is not a bad thing either, especially if the guard making eyes at you is holding the keys to the only barrier separating you from freedom. These guys calmly opened the gate and mundanely walked out of the prison, showing no haste, paying no attention to anything. There aren't many scenarios where a prison guard and an escaped inmate can live happily ever after. She runs her hands through her hair and looks utterly exhausted, rethinking her life choices. The girl is arrested the next day and the 3 escapees are apprehended 5 days later after a tense struggle with the police. Do what you're good at, break hearts, not jailbreaks. Escape in a van. If you think something is too good to be true, your senses are not lying. A group of prisoners are escorted through the garage, back to their cells. One of them is delayed and soon disappears from sight behind a van. The guards walk ahead and don't notice his absence. All the prisoner has to do is open the door, turn the key that sticks so conveniently in the ignition, and start the car. It's as if the stars have aligned and the universe is almost begging the criminal to take a chance on freedom. The guy speeds up the van, smashes through the garage door, and finds himself free, or so he thought. The fugitive crashes into trees nearby and is arrested. Most people steal a car and then go to jail, not the other way around. Handcuffs. Even dumb criminals get lucky in the end. This woman, arrested at a motel for theft, ended up in a police cell. She was left alone with her phone to try to negotiate bail and get home. In between checking text messages, the woman tries to free herself from the handcuffs shackling her to the wall. Despite the fact that police said the handcuffs were buckled to the hilt, she managed to free her dainty hands. The woman removed her keys from a hook on the wall and used them to open the emergency exit and slip quietly out the back door while no one could see. The fugitive was caught an hour later when she returned to the same hotel where she had been arrested that morning. The woman was immediately recognized by the staff working there. There is no cure for stupidity. Bulldozer attack. Denmark is famous for Vikings and Lego bricks, but what about a mass prison break? This is the first we've heard of it. 25 years ago, a TV crew received an anonymous tip about a protest outside a prison in Copenhagen and went there to document the event. What happened next? A bulldozer crashed into the brick wall of the prison and destroyed it. The prisoners ran out of the hole like ants from their nest. They can be seen running down the street, laughing and cheering, rejoicing in their newfound freedom. The film crew was arrested on suspicion of having advance knowledge of the escape and failing to notify the police. A total of 13 prisoners escaped from the prison, some of whom had been sentenced to long terms for serious crimes. Only 3 of the escapees were caught. Detailed instructions. The key to success is following a well-designed plan. It is generally accepted that installing vents large enough for a person to squeeze through close to the floor is a bad idea for a prison. But that's how the trio gained access to the plumbing shafts behind the wall. The prisoners used ropes made from sheets, and waited for the van with fresh clothes and a bottle of Jack Daniels as a celebratory drink. It took only 8 minutes for the 3 fugitives to carry out their elaborate plan. Ironically, they used a cell phone to film their escape from the cell. These guys traded 15 minutes of fame for 15 years behind bars. A daring escape. They say that courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. This teenager, arrested at school for fighting, was left alone in an interrogation room for only 10 seconds, after which he threw caution aside and fearlessly jumped out of a second-story window from a height of 5 meters. Maybe he just has rubber bones, because after the fall, the guy immediately got up and got out of there as fast as his legs could take him. After 14 minutes, a cop comes to check on the guy, and utters a few foul words when he realizes what happened. The fugitive was found 3 hours later at his friend's house. It's safe to say that when he turns 21, the only bars he will visit will be made of iron. Through the window. The mind is a powerful thing. Remember, you need to believe in yourself and strive for your goal. This prisoner had a pretty simple plan. While he was being processed at the detention center, one of his buddies was distracting the guard while he was running away. When the man saw a very small window, he thought, "This is my opportunity," and then dived through the window. Once outside, the fugitive got into a car where his girlfriend was waiting for him, and they drove off like a modern-day Bonnie and Clyde. 26 days after the anonymous tip, the couple was found in an abandoned house in a neighboring state. The warden said he had taken extra measures and put locking mechanisms on the windows even though it's obvious a prison should have them. If you get caught, sometimes the only thing you can do to save yourself is to rely on your instincts. And for this guy, those instincts were to go up, and for his friend, his instincts were to wait until the officers forgot about him to make their move. This recorder captures the moment a prisoner carelessly escapes from a police car. But perhaps he pretended to be too carefree, because the cops were able to catch the fugitive almost immediately and drag him inside. Dude, head back to prison. Well, as I promised, the video was interesting. So, subscribe to the channel, give it a thumbs up. See you tomorrow. Bye for now.